Hello, welcome everyone. This is just going to take a minute while we get everyone into the meeting because there are a lot of you. My name is Eleanor. I am the marketing manager for ARIA Events. Thank you so much everyone for joining this very special webinar this evening. Today's guest almost needs no introduction, Shane Ohly. So Shane is usually used to hosting these webinars, so this might be a little bit different for him. But he is alive and well after his amazing effort running 380 kilometres, the entire length of the Dragon's Back race route from Conway to Cardiff in one continuous effort. I was fortunate enough to actually join Shane for the final section of his route. And I have to say, I don't think many people will have seen their boss in such a low state as I saw Shane. But anyway, just some housekeeping before we get started. I'm going to aim to keep this around 90 minutes. There will be time for questions at the end, so please use either the chat function or the Q&A function. I will do my best to get through as many of the questions as I can, but please bear with me on that one. But yeah, anyway, Shane, how are you feeling?
Not too bad overall would be my answer. And my main complaint is I've got sore skin on my feet, so I'm hobbling around because of that. But big muscles, my legs, my hamstrings, my calves actually feel pretty good.
That's pretty impressive, to be honest. So I guess we'll start at the beginning. So why did you decide to take on this challenge?
It's a really good question, and I think over many years I've watched my friends and contemporaries take part in the Dragon's Back race. Some people I've raced with, some people I've raced against, and I've always kind of wanted to be up there and race with them and share in that experience. I've always wondered how I would do if I'd, had that opportunity. Last year, I thought, long before last year's event, I thought seriously about whether I could actually take part in the event. And some wiser people than me said that even if I was able to kind of step away from the organization and take part, it would never be the experience that I hoped, because the team would always come to me if there was a big question or problem to solve, and the participants and event team would always see me there as the owner of the event. And I think that was good advice. And I guess it tipped me down a path of thinking about how else I could experience the Dragon's Back race. And I can actually put a date on it when I actually started talking about it, because Kirsten, one of my friends who came to help me, she was the manager of the Swedish trail and mountain running team, and I saw her in Innsbruck, which is June 2023, and we went out for a drink, and we were talking about our running goals and personal, challenges, and I shared this idea with her then of trying to run Dragon's Back route as a continuous thing. So that's really when it started to form in my mind. And I guess by January of this year, I had a date in my mind. I'd committed to some training. I was starting to I told really just 2 or 3 friends in the UK, this is what I was planning to do. And it was started building from there.
That's amazing. So you've never actually done this, like a challenge of this sort of length before. So how did you even begin to plan the logistics and the training?
So the logistics were relatively simple to plan. I guess people ask me, how far or how long had you gone before? And the answer is nowhere near this. So the longest I'd run is in one continuous effort was about 130 kilometers, albeit very mountainous. And the longest I'd gone for non-stop running was about 30 hours. So I knew I was stepping into the unknown. But that's part of the attraction. Honestly, I love the sense of, discovering something and uncertainty and challenge. So that was actually quite appealing. Where does it all start? The logistics with a giant spreadsheet. And I think the crew and the team who were helping, who saw the spreadsheet with the logistical plan, knew that I'd thought about it in quite some detail.
Yeah, it was a very, very detailed spreadsheet for sure. And training, how did you start going about that?
So for quite a long time now, I've not really done very much racing, and I will do the odd race, but I've not been training to race. I go running because I find it very relaxing and therapeutic. I enjoy the journey through the mountains. And I asked Paul Turney to provide some coaching for me. And I think Paul, because he provides that coaching for our Dragons Back customers anyway through his company Missing Link, he was a really obvious person to ask. He's got so much experience of these ultra long events, and he's local. And yeah, it was a really good decision. So the first thing Paul did was he actually took volume out of my training. So you would think you'd be doing huge miles, but actually he reduced my volume and started putting quality back in, which is the thing that had been missing because I've just got into this routine of kind of zone 2 running, and that was all. So and I think actually the work, the hill work and strength and conditioning work clearly paid off, because I felt strong on the hills. Other than a few hours where I had some niggles, generally I felt strong and comfortable when I was going uphill. It was good.
Yeah, it was impressive. You're muscle wise, you were moving really well, right to the end. So what kind of, when you started the challenge, what kind of support and team did you have with you on the challenge?
Let me cycle back a little bit first. So I guess the first thing to say is I put a lot of time and energy into preparing for this. And my wife Heather has been generous with her time in allowing me extra time to be running and away for weekends recceing. And I guess that is the absolute bedrock of the team, if you like. She, more than anyone else, has listened to me talk about this, that, and the other, and whether I should do this, that, and the other, and has done so with great patience, I would say. Then obviously adding into that, Paul Cerny, from a coaching perspective, was excellent. And then again, same principle. I decided so much of these long challenges is about the mental preparation. I went to Eleanor McCormack at Think, who do kind of psychological sports psychology training, to help me prepare. And I did that in the last kind of 5 or 6 weeks. And that was incredibly helpful in just, I guess, the, sharpening up like the specificity of your training in those final stages. And then there's this network of friends. I guess one of the things I wanted to experience is that sense of community that the participants get when you build this network of friends that you go recceing with, you explore the course with, you talk about kit with. And I very naturally fell into, a group of running friends who, have done Dragons Back, are doing Dragons Back, are all motivated by Dragons Back. And we went out and did lots of recceing together. And those weekends away have been some of the, most special, best weekends I've had with my friends in the mountains. Just been absolutely brilliant. So kind of getting back to your question, that final team that came to help me was quite a lot of people involved. There was 32 different people, and it was this amazing mixture of old climbing friends who run, kind of new friends who I've met through Dragons Back, either event team or participants, and some of my absolute best running buddies I've known for years. It was an amazing combination of people, and they absolutely kind of held my hand, not literally, but through that whole process.
It was an enormous team, and quite a lot of previous winners of the Dragons Back came out to support you, I saw as well, which is, I think, really, really nice to see.
It was very lovely. It was very touching. And actually, I think the number of people on that team who had completed Dragon's Back, not just won it, was very high. I haven't bothered to work it out, but I reckon we must be close to 50 or 60% of all the helpers were Dragon's Back finishers. So yeah, really, really strong, competent team that were, fantastic for me.
Yeah. So for anything this long, obviously nutrition and hydration is a really, really important part of that. So how did your nutrition and hydration strategy go?
Shit would be the answer in one summary. So I think when I reflect on it, and it's interesting, your reflections change, like from immediately after the event to a few days later, and 3 days later, blah blah blah. I think the headline reflections for me already is that the nutrition and hydration was just fundamentally wrong, and I'm not even sure quite how to fix that yet. The obvious things were that I had too much sweet, sugary food and drink, and what I found was that after about 30 hours of continuous running, my mouth became very sore and started to blister, and probably from just excessive sugar and eating every 20. I was quite disciplined. I was eating every 20 minutes, just a little thing, but too many sweet things. And I actually ended up with a really sore and blistered mouth and gums and things like that. So my appetite went and I felt nauseous, and I ate less and less and less. And actually, when I unpacked all my food at the end of, when returning home, I only ate about 1/4 of all the food I expected to eat on the hill. So, a massive underfueling. What got me through was a little bit of eating on the hill, and often sipping on chocolate milk and Huel and Tailwind, which was giving me some calories and carbs on the hill. And then I tended to eat a bit more food, and I ended up eating lots of little children's sized tins of baked beans sprinkled with cashew nuts. That seemed to go down well. Had an amazing moment when my friend Zoe somehow magicked up a Leon love burger from who knows where. So that stung my mouth a lot, but it was very happily consumed.
Yeah, that was quite impressive when she just produced this love burger. I think we were all wondering how you were going to get this burger, and she somehow managed it. It was amazing. So what kit did you use, and were you happy with the kit that you went with?
Yeah, I was really happy with the kit, so I got no complaints. I wanted to keep things simple. People might have seen from the photos, I kind of had yellow clothes on, or some red clothes on, or some blue clothes on. And that was so I could just package up my clothes for my support team and say, I'm going to wear the blue clothes on the next leg, or the red clothes on the next leg. So that kept things simple. I had 4 planned changes of clothes. And then I had a lot of other stuff that I could drop into if needed. And actually I ended up wearing my 3/4 length tights in the first 24 hours, much more than I expected, because it was so wet and windy. And come back to that maybe later. What stood out for me, I'm a real fan of waterproof shorts. So it's just really hard work running in waterproof trousers, and waterproof shorts will keep your groin dry. You're less likely to chafe then, and kind of their long thigh length shorts. So I definitely can recommend those. I have some Salomon ones, which are fantastic. Some Scarpa shoes. I was wearing Spin Ultras. Scarpa very generously gave me increasing sizes, and I started in 43s, and then I went to 44s about halfway through, and I went to 45s for maybe the last 100k. So there is no way I could have finished that run if I still had the size 43s that I'd started in, as my feet swelled. We have a relationship with Salomon across our other events, so I'm lucky to have quite a lot of their clothing. I think it's great. Most of my base layers and shorts and t-shirts were Salomon. And then also, I think some of the very best kit for mountain running that you can get is often ski mountaineering kit, and it's designed for those high energy kind of exercise and sports. And it's lightweight and it's robust. It's designed for the mountain environment. So I was wearing some Dynafit mid layers and a waterproof jacket, which were brilliant. So, I mean, there was nothing particularly special in that selection of kit. Lecky poles, I guess I should add those in. They were pretty cool. Wore them, used them every day. Yeah, it was a fairly standard array of kind of mountain running kit.
Nice. So sleep deprivation was quite a new element for you. That's something that you probably hadn't really had to deal with before. How did you find that element of it?
So yeah, I was intrigued about how I would handle the sleep deprivation, and I hugely underestimated, excuse me, the impact it would have on me, and particularly the sleep deprivation is at its worst at night, and you're moving most slowly at night, and this will make people laugh. When I was trying to do my slow training runs to get me used to running slowly, I was running at like 7-minute kilometers, and I was saying to myself, I cannot imagine ever running this slowly. I mean, this is crazy slow. And then I was moving at like 20+ minute kilometers in the middle of the night when I was exhausted and sleep deprived. Because I've not really done these, multi-day things before, there was a bit of learning that we had to do on the go about what worked for me in terms of a sleep recovery. And I planned and had 2 90-minute-ish sleeps on the trail. And I felt pretty good after I'd had those. And I had those kind of early in the morning, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I also had quite a lot of trail sleeps where I might sleep for 5 minutes and get up and run again. When I first started doing those like trail naps, what I thought was maybe sleep for 15 to 20 minutes and then get up and go. But what I was finding is I was already in quite deep sleep within 15 minutes. So when I woke up, it was really difficult to get going again. And it took 3 or 4 goes to work it out. But essentially we discovered that 5 minutes, the very, very short sleeps worked really well for me. And I would be able to get up and get going again without too much problem and feel good for about 45 minutes more if I had that 5 minutes sleep. I think on reflection, I would have been much better off programming in some more sleep. And I think, my average time and my overall time and pace speak volumes about the requirement for sleep.
Yeah, I definitely I witnessed you having one of your trail naps, and it did make a big difference from wobbling all over the place to being functional again. Was there anything that surprised you or that you didn't expect?
Well, I kind of mentioned the sleep deprivation, just how slowly you move when you're sleep deprived and it's dark. That did surprise me. I just had no idea that I could end up going that slowly despite trying really, really hard. I guess the soreness in my mouth was something I hadn't anticipated. And just as a kind of little comical aside for anybody listening, I should add Dave Harf and Natalia Kennedy, were doing, sorry, Natalia Kennedy, Nat Kennedy. I'm still tired. They were doing my road support with some help from Abby Forsyth early on. And they were just awesome at helping me out and making things run smoothly in the background. But I don't know, maybe on the second night when these mouth ulcers and blisters were very sore, I actually then started developing some oral thrush, and it was really quite unpleasant. And Nat was able to find me some like thrush cream, but it was like vaginal thrush cream, not like mouthwash thrush cream, which is like, this is all I can find in the middle of the night. So suck it up, buttercup, because it's not going to taste nice, but it's going to do the job. And yeah, well, there you go. That was a surprise. I didn't expect to be wiping that around my mouth.
Yeah.
So the other thing that surprised me, I think, was just how good you can feel after a break. And even when you stop for, 15 minutes planned break and you stand up to get going again and you feel totally trashed. Um, Actually, 5 minutes later, you're moving again. And as long as you've got that willpower to get going, it's amazing what you can do. So yeah, I kept surprising myself at just getting up and getting on with it.
Nice. So what was your lowest moment and how did you deal with this?
Um, I guess maybe rather than low moments, I'll talk about the bits that I found hardest that stick in my mind. I'll probably be reminded of some other ones. So when we started, there was some fairly poor weather, like gale force, wind and rain over the Carneddau and Glitters. So it was really tough running. It was windy enough that it was hard to run in a straight line at times, and it was very wet. And whilst we stayed on my, what would in hindsight seem very ambitious 72-hour schedule, which was the original schedule, we had to work really, really hard for that. And it was the kind of weather that if you didn't work hard, you just got cold. We just dressed as a runner was not appropriate in those conditions. So we had to work hard, but we finished first leg, second leg, more or less on the schedule, went into the third leg over the Snowdon Horseshoe and Crib Goch, and the wind dropped by this point, but it was still absolutely gopping, wet and horrible, and it was just very slow going. And I could see, time slipping away, but I'm like, you know what? Conditions are bad. The forecast is good for the next 3 days. Don't worry about it. Went into the first night and there was just very, very poor visibility all night. From the moment it got dark, we were in the clag with 10 meters visibility, going over the Molwins and then the northern the northern Rhinogs. And it's just so hard to move quickly in those conditions. So we essentially walked all of the first night trying to navigate and find our way. And it just made it very slow. And suddenly by the morning of the second day, we were quite a long way adrift from the schedule already, and despite trying hard. Sorry, kind of gone on a bit of a sidetrack there. The first real low moment, I think, was later on that second day, leg 7 going over Cad Idris. And all of a sudden, I had this really significant knee pain, and it was a new knee pain. I hadn't felt it before. It wasn't like a training niggle I was aware of. And within an hour, it felt like it was going to be kind of showstopper, race-ending knee pain. It was very intense, kind of 6, 7 out of 10 pain. I was wincing every time I stepped on my left leg. And leg 7 became super slow again because I was in a lot of pain. But got to the changeover point in Abergynolwyn, met with Nat and Dave and Abby. We conference called with Morag, who's one of our regular event physios, absolutely brilliant physio. And they came up with a taping solution with K-tape. They managed to offload the bit of my knee that was causing the problem, and they just fixed it. There's no other way of describing it. Despite then going another 250k or whatever it was, they fixed that knee problem with magic taping. So it was super impressive, super impressive. I guess the next low point, I think it's leg 11, which is from Eland Village over Dragonavar, and my Achilles on my right calf started really aching again. And I just didn't have a solution for it, and I was just a bit of a low point, starting to feel tired, and just slowed enormously during that leg. So that was hard, very tough. Leg 13, kind of passing through Llandovery to the Usk Reservoir, was the first really deeply fatigued period I had, where I just stumbled along, and our support vehicle was already parked up at Usk Reservoir. And if you don't know the roads, it's quite complicated to drive round. So it would have been quicker, even me stumbling on at whatever 30 minutes per kilometre, to get to the vehicle, then the vehicle to drive around and do a kind of impromptu support point sleep. That was tough. I was really struggling that night. And then the final one, leg 17 from Taliban, which is our camp 5 along the Taff Trail, which Eleanor joined me on.
Yeah.
I was very fatigued again then, and there's a wonderful video of me kind of mildly hallucinating as I chat to Eleanor and Hannah Rickman, who was supporting us as well. And yeah, it was just hilarious. And I was going very slowly. And it's hard. It's just so hard to keep going when you're that extremely tired.
Yeah. You were seeing garden furniture everywhere.
Yeah, it was bizarre. I kept seeing like big planters that you'd put a tree in, and like deck chairs and patio furniture, or just particularly the chairs, these lovely chairs in the hedge that I wanted to sit on, but wasn't allowed.
No, I mean, to add insult to injury, there then was actually a park bench, which I think you found very confusing. So we've talked a lot about low moments. Now let's focus on highlights. Did you have any highlights?
Yeah, so highlights massively outweigh the low moments. So I always said to everybody that you could have always described this run as an FKT attempt, and I didn't want to. I described it as Shane's Dragon's Back party. And for me, that's how I wanted it to be. I was going out with my friends to spend time in the mountains and have fun. And absolutely, that is what was achieved. So the two most important goals for me were finishing and having a good time. And those were absolutely achieved. And there were so many funny moments of just laughing and bantering with my friends. I mean, I can't get over it. And particularly when I look at some of the videos and film, it just fills me with laughter. And the WhatsApp messages I've had in the last few days from friends reminding me of the things that I said and did are just absolutely hilarious. And I think when you become that fatigued, you kind of lose a little bit of inhibition, and you kind of get into these conversations with your friends that otherwise you might not happen, and everybody's on a bit of a high, and you just have this very free-flowing, fun conversation. And that was my experience. I actually nearly lost my voice because I did so much laughing and talking. So yeah, I maybe wasn't concentrating enough on my time, but I was definitely concentrating on having fun.
Yeah, I think that was something that was said to me once I joined was, oh yeah, he's actually not stopped talking since he started in Conway. So you clearly were having a good time.
Yeah, I was having a great time.
Is there anything that you would do differently?
Well, I'd be clear, I'm not planning to do this again. It's probably a bit of a one-off for me.
Yeah.
I think obviously I would have to absolutely revisit how I did nutrition and hydration. It clearly did not work for me. And a solution based on more savory food. I think also when you're essentially fit and strong, and I did go into this probably fitter than I've been for a decade, but then you run at a low speed, you just don't need to adopt this every 20-30 minute fueling strategy. You can just afford to eat, I guess, more substantial food at longer intervals. And I think I should have done that right from the word go. And I felt that by adopting a kind of race eating strategy early on, that would help me through later on, because I would have kind of front loaded some fuel, which I did, but I think that caused more problems than it solved. I think my support runners were brilliant, and on many occasions I ended up with the perfect person at the perfect time. But when I reflect on that, that was more by luck than by design. And I think for anybody who was wanting to do something like this, or if anybody wanted to chase a record, I would say think really carefully about the right skill set and person you put on a leg to help you along.
Yeah, that all sounds like sensible advice. Similar question, but a bit different. What did you learn from the experience?
I definitely learned how hard you can push yourself, and how when you face these seemingly impossible situations of injury or illness, like a nausea and things like that, that you think you just can't be overcome, actually problem solving a way out of those, and an attitude of I am going to get this done was amazingly powerful and effective. Kind of not taking no for an answer, and also being surrounded by people who were not going to let you say no as well. That was really, really amazing. So as ever, and say it to the participants at across our events, you never really know what you're capable of unless you try. And I surprised myself, because I think it would have been easy at one point to go, I'm behind my schedule, my knees sore, I'm feeling a bit nauseated, I'm going to bin this. And I think if the motivation had all been about going as fast as I possibly could, that might have been too difficult to resist. But actually, I think I was pretty clear in my head about what my motivations were, and it was have fun and complete. And that was a really important and powerful motivator, I guess.
That's amazing. Yeah. How has this changed how you view the race, the Dragon's Back race?
I know one thing for sure: 6-day stage race is much, much better than Nonstop. And I actually think my time and statistics totally support that as well. My time was slow, I'm going to call it that. And actually, I think over that terrain, that rough terrain and that hilly terrain, the opportunity to recover and also not have to be moving at night for any significant period of time is hugely, hugely advantageous. So kind of essentially sleeping when it's difficult to run in the darkness at the overnight camps, and maximizing the daylight, and being really well fed, and people get well fed at our events, that's for sure. I think that actually is a really good way to do the event. And whilst I had an amazing time with my friends, I'm probably quite lucky to be able to call upon 30 plus friends to come and spend a huge amount of time with me to do that. But you don't have that camaraderie of the event camp and all of the things that the participants have. So I think I've tapped into some of the key features of the Dragon's Back race. Obviously the route, I feel like I know the route pretty well now. The sense of camaraderie and achievement and satisfaction, all of those things, but also see the differences. And I've come back to the firm belief that doing over 6 days is definitely going to be more fun and enjoyable.
Do you feel like you understand a bit more the participant experience now then?
Yeah, I think I've always had a pretty good understanding because I do a lot of running, but I always felt that essentially being a back marker, that's kind of how I've seen this. My Dragon's Back party is a bit like being a back marker at the Dragon's Back, always under time pressure, always feel like you're moving slowly, and I think I probably have much greater empathy for those participants now.
So you're probably expecting this question, but would you do something like that again, or is it too soon to ask?
No, I'm not planning to do anything like that again. I won't say I won't, but what I can honestly say is right now I have no plans to do anything like that, and I am looking forward to a nice long period of recovery now, and yeah, we'll go from there.
That sounds very sensible. Any exciting recovery plans?
Well, we've got a Dragon's Back race to organise in a week's time. And then straight into the Buttermere Skyline as well. So that is essentially September organised. All busy.
Nice. So this is the last question from me, but I know we've already got a lot of people asking questions in the chat and the Q&A. But do you think someone else will have a go at this in the future? And if so, what advice do you have for them?
I hope somebody will have a go. I think it will always be a little bit of a niche challenge. What advice would I have for them? I mean, familiarity with the route is really important. I think I mentioned it already about making sure you've got the right support runners in the right places, get your nutrition, hydration strategy absolutely dialed. I think, in reality, I probably needed to do a couple of 100-mile races to really understand how to manage that nutrition and hydration, because I just went from this with not enough experience really of these super long endurance things.
Nice. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to some of the questions that people have sent in. There's already quite a lot of them. What niggles did you experience and how did you deal/overcome with them? I know you've sort of touched on your knee a bit already. Was there anything else?
There was three standout niggles. Left knee, which was dealt with by some taping to kind of offload the problem. Right knee developed a problem I've had before, which is just about the kneecap tracking properly when the muscles are tired. And I know that can be sorted out really easily with a bit of taping. So that's the kind of U-shaped tape you see around people's knees. That fixed that problem straight away. My right Achilles was pretty sore. That had some tape to support it. And, I did take some painkillers to help manage that pain and discomfort later on. And there's definitely peak moments when your painkillers had run out or on a low ebb, and you were definitely going to need to wait for excuse me, you're definitely going to need to wait for you took some more. And those were tough times for sure.
You might not know the answer to this question, but I'd be interested to know, how much weight did you lose over the few days?
I didn't weigh myself. I did think about doing this, and actually early on, about 6 months before I did this, I had all kinds of pseudoscience ideas about experimenting on this and recording this data and that data and weighing myself and measuring this. And actually it was Heather, my wife, who was just like, Shane, you've got enough on your plate. Just go and do the running and forget about all of this. An experiment of N1 is not particularly helpful. So I didn't weigh myself. My instinct looking at myself is that I've probably not lost or gained any noticeable amount of weight.
That sounds very sensible from Heather there.
Yeah.
So Robert has asked, after your experience, is there any inclination to turn the Dragon's Back into a non-stop race, or perhaps add a new long distance expedition race to the AREA events catalogue?
No, it's a simple answer. So I just think if you made Dragon's Back non-stop, you would struggle to make it commercial, and you need a minimum number of people to pay for the infrastructure and staffing. They've become so spread out in a non-stop format that your logistics would become so spread out. Obviously, there's events like the Spine that do it. We do it with the Northern Traverse, but I think both the Spine and the Northern Traverse have their place, and I think Dragon's Back has its place as a stage race as well. So no, absolutely no plans.
Yeah. So Joe has asked, so sleep, how much, when, and why?
So I think on reflection, I could have done more. I basically went straight through the first night without any sleep. So Thursday night into Friday. Friday night into Saturday, I stopped. I had a couple of trail naps as I desperately tried to push through to where the camper van and support point was for me. I suspect that was, let's say, maybe 40 minutes of sleep in 4 or 5 goes to get through that night, and then a 90-minute sleep once I got to the van. Then on the next night, which is the Saturday, Sunday night, I had another period of trail naps. This time we realized that the 5 minutes was working well just to get me going. I had one emergency stop in Zoe's camper van in Merthyr Tydfil, and that was fairly hilarious. As you saw me walk through the door, and I was essentially unconscious before my head even hit the pillow.
Yeah.
How long was it? 10 minutes I slept for there? 15 minutes?
It was 20 minutes. You were asleep by the time we could ask you how long you wanted to sleep. So we took the executive decision that you needed 20 minutes. And I think Zoe then proceeded to video call someone in the background.
Yeah, that was a bit of a. So I should have mentioned before that, I think I had 90 minutes at Talabont with
Yeah.
Talabont Reservoir. So add it all up, it's not very much. Maybe it's 4 hours of sleep over 4.5 days, something like that in total.
Yeah, not much at all, really. So Phil has asked, how did you cope with chafing?
So chafing can be such a horrible problem for ultra runners, and I will be like brutally clear about this for everybody listening. So I hope to share some good advice. I think the number one thing is to make sure that you clean yourself up properly after you've been for poo, because the slightest bit of debris left is going to chafe. And so I made sure in my little pack of kind of toiletry stuff going on the loo, I had some wet wipes and some loo roll and like dog poo bags so I could clear everything up and not leave a mess. And then loads and loads and loads of lube. So at almost every support point, I would lube up, and this would be my groin, my armpits, and make sure that they were really well lubed, regardless of whether. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. To lube up regardless of how I was feeling. So I wasn't doing it because I felt sore. I was lubing up so that I didn't get sore. And actually, I had virtually no chafing problems for the whole thing. It was starting to develop a few little hot spots just in the last half a day, but it was basically fine.
So did you have to take any trail naps in bad weather? If so, did you get into a bivy bag or a small tent or just lie down in heather?
So I had a group shelter and survival bag with me at all times, but I laid on the group shelter and I never got in the survival bag. Generally, what I would do is lie down on the group shelter on the ground, and during the daytime I just lay there because I was only stopping for 5 minutes or so. And overnight, some of the other runners I was with would just pile some of their spare clothes and jackets on top of me. So it was pretty simple.
Nice. So Molly has asked, how is the post-race swelling, and can we see your legs?
Can't really do my legs. I can show you my feet if you like. But post-race swelling is not bad. Let me do my foot. Oh, actually, let's do this foot. This is the worst. My feet are not too bad. So excuse me. Here we go.
Trigger warning if you don't like feet.
So, wait a minute.
Shane, how have you got the flexibility to do this?
Eyes on my foot. It's not bad. So, yeah, my feet are a little bit swollen. The skin on my feet is the most painful thing, actually. I use loads of trench, which worked really well. And despite generally being wet, my feet didn't really become significantly macerated. But what's happened, as soon as I've stopped running, my feet have just dried out and become really leathery and hard and tender. I had a couple of blisters that were full of blood and I drained, and a couple of blisters that had dirt in that I debraded myself. I had a toenail, my big toe on my left foot is definitely very dead and had a bit of pus and blood underneath it, so that needed cleaning out as well. So feet are sore, legs are good.
Nice. So someone has asked, so it's Carol has asked, she saw some deviations from the kind of line on the open tracking.
Yeah.
Is that due to navigational issues, a mandatory deviation on private property, or is it a sneaky line that people should be replicating?
It depends. So I think what I would say, there was no nav errors that I'm aware of. There was a few times when we took the racing line. There was a few times actually, like on day 6 of Dragon's Back, where we just didn't find the line through the ferns. So don't necessarily follow what we did. If it was a mandatory route for the Dragon's Back race, we followed that precisely. Where the route is recommended, we did sometimes take some racing lines. Not all of them. There's a few that we didn't do. What I found was that towards the end, when I was tired and fatigued and my feet were sore, that if I was on a reasonable path and I could keep my legs and my feet and my knees all in one line, wasn't too sore. But the moment I started twisting, and like tussocky grass or very rough ground made my kind of legs hurt more. So we took some lines that would kind of were optimized for how my body was working, essentially.
Nice.
But everything we did was intentional. Maybe that's the right answer.
Yeah. So what specific strength training did you do prior to the Dragon's Back route? And that's from Joanna.
So I had a weekly strength session for kind of like runners, and I had some additional like strength and conditioning that I was doing that focused on some of my niggles that I knew would potentially be problematic. I think all of that worked really well because I felt strong throughout, climbed well throughout, and the niggles were not problematic. Specifically what I did, I was probably too detailed to get into, but you know, one of the things I think were really good were the Bulgarian split squats with weights, step ups onto a box with a weight as well. Lots of stuff like that, just, you know, building proper strength and power in your legs.
Nice. I'm sort of taking note of that myself, actually, because I should be better at doing that. So Nina's asked, now that you've run it yourself, will it feel different supporting runners at the event? And is there anything you would change in the event for future years now that you have personal experience of it?
Well, I think I've always known the race incredibly well. I think I should make that clear. You know, every year, you know, I've been out on the course, I've run sections of it. So there wasn't really any surprises in terms of the course. I don't think I'm likely to change anything anytime soon. I think what this confirmed to me was the 6-day format works really well. If you want to do it non-stop, fill your boots, but it's really hard. It gives me greater empathy. I think the most important thing, it just gives me greater empathy for all the runners when they're out there and they're having a hard time. And I can look on a map and go, yeah, I remember when I was precisely in that place and also having a hard time.
Nice. So Seema has asked, how did you overcome the nausea? I know you struggled with that a bit.
It settled basically once I stopped eating as much sweet food and caffeinated food. It settled on its own. It took about 24 hours to really, really settle. There was a couple of times when I essentially vomited into my own mouth and I just swallowed it back down. It's like I cannot afford to be sick. It's like I need every calorie in my body. And I also knew if you start vomiting in the middle of the night, you're just going to get so cold and it's going to be really detrimental. That didn't happen often, and that's kind of just, I guess, sheer pig-headedness to carry on with it. What I found was certain foods worked well, like plain, like salted hula hoops. You know, haven't got a strong flavour. They helped settle my tummy. The chocolate milk, vegan chocolate milk, I should add, so soya milk, that was good. Yeah, a few things like that. I think it's so personal. Nutrition, hydration, it's so personal. And I wish I could say, do this and you'll be fine. But I think you just have to learn it for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really nice question, actually. How do you plan to celebrate?
That's a good question. So we've obviously made this, we filmed, so we've got an amazing team who are filming this. We're not really sure what type of film we are going to make, but we have captured the whole thing with the kind of media team that we use at our events. Um, I think a great way to celebrate this would be to invite all of the team who helped me to like a premiere film somewhere over the winter. So I think maybe that would be my moment of celebration.
Oh, that would be really nice. I'm really looking forward to seeing whatever film comes from
Yeah,
it as well. That'd be great. I think there'll be some good moments in there.
there'll be some hilarity, that's for sure.
James asks, will you submit this effort to FKT?
I suppose so. I haven't really given it any thought, but I guess so. I guess so.
Rob has asked, sock choice, and did you pop blisters as you went?
So sock choice, I use stance socks. So every sock I wore exactly the same sock every time, except for I put some waterproof socks on at one point, which was a mistake. They just filled with water, and I'd kind of forgotten that. Yeah, you definitely need waterproof over trousers to stop the water running into your waterproof socks, or it all becomes pointless. That was a mistake, the waterproof socks. So I just had stance running socks, which were great. They were new socks, which had been in the washing machine once just to take the shine off them. I think that helped. And blisters, I did not have any meaningful blisters at any point during the FKT. I had one blister on the side of my heel, and it wasn't particularly sore. What I did learn, so I've done quite a lot of time moonlighting in the medical tent at our own events, at our events, and I've made it a real effort in the last year to ask runners what they've done to look after their feet. When I'm looking at their feet and doing some blister care for them, wound management, and the general chit chat is, so what have you done? And people have these very, very different approaches, but the only consistent theme that I can see with people who have good feet is that they have moisturized them, and they have used, I keep forgetting the name, little sandy stone,
Hummus.
pumice stone. Thank you. I've had a mental block on that for days. So pumice stone. So basically get rid of all the calluses of hard skin, and then soften your feet with foot cream. Like I used a urea foot cream that has a slight acidic kind of base to it. And then, interestingly, this small blister I did get on my heel was one of the very few places that I still had a little bit of callus left. So there you go. Moisturize, moisturize.
Nice. Russell asks, did you hit anywhere in particular in darkness that you'd rather have hit in daylight, either because of terrain or mental difficulty?
Yeah, definitely. So on day two, the new section, this is the new route for this year through the Rinogs, we hit that in the darkness and in very poor visibility. It's quite a difficult trail to follow and navigate, even in the best of conditions. And we had 10-meter visibility and drizzle, and it was very challenging. And I think if you were to reimagine all of this, you would probably plan to be on that terrain during daylight.
So Gareth wants to know where your mind drifted to during the long hours of relative isolation, or is that a dangerous question?
No, it's not. But I never felt isolated because I was always with my friends. And honestly, we just laughed and laughed and laughed. I think maybe 85% of the time we were chatting and laughing about something. And again, you were there, Eleanor, you saw it. It was quite hilarious much of the time.
Yeah, it was. Very true.
It never felt isolating. And yeah, it felt like a party.
Nice. Ian wants to know, how is recovery going?
It's good. I mean, apart from the skin on my feet, which feels tender, and then I've taken a step backwards by debrading some blisters myself, but I think in the long term they'll heal quicker, just because they had dirt and blood in them and things like that. So like yesterday and today, and feet are a bit sore, but I think give me a couple of days, I'll be fine. My legs feel good. If it wasn't for my feet, I feel like I could go running. I'm not going to. I'm planning to have a few weeks off. And the most significant thing is I have a proper brain fog and just like sitting at work. I've been in work all day today. I'm still here. Will be a long day today. I definitely feel tired, and feel my productivity is very poor at the moment.
I think that's fair enough. We'll let you off there. What's your favourite piece of kit?
My favourite piece of kit, gosh, although they didn't get used much, I did really like the waterproof shorts I had. I think they're a bit of a game changer. I was very impressed with the Dynafit waterproof jacket I was wearing. I stayed dry the whole time, whereas some of my buddies got wet. And I think, again, good kit is worth its weight in gold.
Nice. Bridget's asked, how many hours did you sleep for after you finished?
Well, it wasn't so. We had a bit of a pizza party in the hotel room in Cardiff, and I think I was asleep when people were still leaving the room. And that was about 9 p.m. And then I was awake at 6. I kind of normally wake up at 6. That's my normal routine, and I just woke up at 6. Like, right, let's get on with it. I think I needed some painkillers as well. So it wasn't a huge sleep after that. And subsequent to that, my sleep's been really poor, actually. So I've had, as lots of ultra runners will know, these horrible kind of night sweats as my metabolism is kind of overcharged at the moment. So yeah, I've been sleeping, waking up really sweaty and horrible and trying to get back to sleep. So my sleep's not got back to normal yet.
Nice. So I'm nearly at the end of the question. So if anyone has any more, do just put them now. It's your last chance. Chris asks, what type of navigation did you use? Traditional or digital or a mixture?
It depended on who was navigating that leg. So I would say the majority of the support runners use the Avenza app, which we provide to the participants. You can see where you are. You can just follow that, and watches. So GPX line on their watches. Some of my orienteering friends who came along were absolutely map and compass, and that's how they did it. And they would see it as a bit of a stain on their reputation if they resorted to digital navigation. The reality is that a good GPX file on a watch is the easiest way to follow the route.
So a lot of people have been asking this. I know you've already answered it kind of, but I can't not ask it because so many people have asked it. Do you think you'll repeat this feat of endurance by running Cape Wrath as a single stage?
No, I don't. I honestly, I've had a great time. It's been really good. I do have some race plans for next year. I have absolutely no intention of doing another super long thing like this. All I can say is that is my honest intention now. That might change.
Nice. I know you've talked about your shoes a bit. Dave wants to know more about your shoe choice, what you wore.
So I was wearing Scarpa Spin Ultras. I felt that there's definite times on the Dragon's Back race where you want something with more substantial grip, but those are relatively few occasions. And I thought that the kind of, I guess, more supportive padded nature of those shoes compared to what I normally run in would be worth it given the long distance. They fared really well. I've got no complaints on those shoes. They did the job, and I wore the same style of shoe for the entire duration. And as I mentioned earlier, I just changed up. I started in size 43, so my normal size, and I finished in a pair of 45s. So my feet were quite swollen by the end.
Nice. Petra asks, are you tracking your heart rate variability?
Yes, I am. Yeah. So I've been tracking it for 18 months or so now. So I have a pretty good sense of where it is, and it's currently not very good.
That's understandable. What do you recommend for recovery meals?
We had a pizza party in Cardiff, didn't we? And a great big pizza was fantastic. And you know what I did in the morning? I woke up feeling hungry, and ate the leftover pizzas at 6 in the morning.
Nice.
I might add the leftover vegan pizzas. I think whatever you like. I'm not going to get technical. I'm not going to offer nutritional advice. A nutritionist or sports dietitian would say something, about a balance of micronutrients and all the rest of it. Eat what you like and eat lots of it.
Now that I've told everyone it's last chance to ask questions, we've naturally been bombarded with loads more.
That's wrong with it.
Did you have any mantras that you repeated to yourself?
Not really. I mean, no. I think generally we were just in conversation much of the time. So I think the simple answer to that is no.
Yeah. And did you think of food constantly?
No, I don't think so. I think that I guess I thought about food a lot in terms of early on. It was like the food alarm would go off every 20 minutes, and I'd be like, right, what am I going to eat next? And it's just kind of, this is just the process you're going through. Later on, I didn't want to think about food because I felt nauseated and my mouth was sore. So I was kind of avoiding thinking about food. But I guess food is, it's a pretty overwhelming component of trying to do these ultra endurance challenges. I tell you what I did do though, is my alarm on my watch was set to go off every 20 minutes, which is my food alarm to eat. So I decided to reframe that alarm as my effort level, and it would flash, 20, and I'd go, brilliant, 20 out of 20 still for effort. I'm happy with that. So I kept getting this positive affirmation every 20 minutes that I was doing a good job.
Oh, that's nice. So Finn, aged 5, asks if you enjoyed running for so long.
I did, yeah, I did. It was a really empowering experience that I have thoroughly enjoyed, and I think for me personally, I mean, clearly the time I've done is not fast, and honestly, I would have expected to have gone faster. And the schedule that everyone had started off with was 70, just under 72 hours. I'm massively off that. However, my priorities were have a good time, enjoy the journey, and complete. And absolutely, we tick those boxes, and I feel, deeply satisfied by that. Really happy.
Nice. Do you think you could have done it unsupported and all alone?
I mean, there's a technical question about what you fully mean by unsupported. Of course, it could be done by somebody who was going to hike it unsupported, but it'd be a very different proposition. Could I have done that? I have no idea. Did I want to do it? Definitely not. So I did it in exactly the style that I was hoping to do it.
Nice. A couple of people have asked, did you have a favourite part of the route?
Favorite part of the route? That's good. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's so many bits of the route that were enjoyable for different reasons. maybe my favourite moment might have been in the last few kilometres in Butte Park when we were challenged to a sprint finish.
Yeah, you were annoyingly fast on that.
Yeah, it was good. No, I to be honest, I would struggle to pull out a single moment right now. Well, actually, no. Funnily enough, it suddenly comes to me. So, day one has been really tough weather, and at dusk, we literally summited Snowdon, Iwithra, and the wind dropped, the clouds parted, and we suddenly could see the view, and the sun came out. And it was literally the moments we touched the top of Snowdon. So that was pretty special.
That sounds lovely. Ben has asked, what painkillers did you take? Just paracetamol?
Yeah, the mainstay of it was paracetamol and a little bit of codeine. I was lucky that I have my support team, Nat, she's a doctor, and we kept a very close eye on what I was taking and when I was taking it to make sure I didn't take too much. If it had been, left up to me or the runner, you just keep taking it because it does make it easier. There's no two ways about it. I think there's a very interesting debate about the use of painkillers in kind of sport like ultra running.
So Stu has asked, did you award yourself a dragon?
I haven't got my dragon here, have I? It's at home. I was given a little red dragon that some people might have spotted, like a cuddly toy for a child, by Robin Cassidy at the beginning. She did leg one with me, and it did the whole journey, carried by various supporters. So that is the dragon that I've got at the moment.
Oh. And Joanna has asked, what about hydration? Did you feel that you stayed hydrated throughout? How many litres per hour, and were you using electrolytes?
So good question. So first of all the evidence suggests that a hydration plan of X liters per hour or X amount per hour is bad for you and it risks overhydration. So don't do that. Drink to first is the plan. I had a mixture of Tailwind, Precision Hydration, and Coke, and I started every leg with 500 mils of flat Coke, and I always drank that first rather than eating something in that first 20-minute period. I would just drink the bottle of Coke over the first half hour. That worked really well for the first 30 plus hours, felt absolutely great on it. And then I think the sugariness of the Coke, I stopped drinking the Coke after that point. I was just finding it objectionable. And even Tailwind itself is not that sweet, but even that was a bit of a struggle thereafter. Throughout the whole thing, I was weeing really well, and that was one of the updates that would always go back to Nat in kind of in control, as it were. How often is he weeing? What colour is your wee? And I was defining my wee by different kind of sparkling spring waters in terms of just how clear it was. There was a lot of, it's one of the crazy things about this kind of how a challenge like that bashes away some of the normal social barriers and inhibitions, and all of a sudden it's fine to talk about what colour your wee is with your friends.
There was a lot of chat about colour of urine on the WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Oliver asks, did you brush your teeth?
Yeah, I did actually. I had a feeling that I would want to brush my teeth over that amount of time, and so my plan was on those two planned 90-minute sleeps, I would also do a complete change of clothes, and I would also brush my teeth. And on the first one, I actually spent a minute just wiping down my body with a wet wipe as well before I wet wipes until I put the new clothes on. I didn't bother the second time, I was too tired. But yeah, cleaning my teeth was really good. And actually, in the last 24 hours, when I finally had access to the right kind of mouthwash to deal with the oral thrush, then I was using the mouthwash as well at each of the support points.
And Daffod asks, would you be interested in talking to someone that's planning the Cambrian Way, south to north FKT? Because I know there's a lot of route overlap there.
Yeah, Cambrian Way is a fantastic route, and that was part of the original inspiration for the Dragon's Back race route. I mean, I think there's not much that I can say to anybody that I'm not covering now in this route in this chat.
Yeah, we're getting lots of good advice and tips here, actually. Um, and this is the last question I've got. Did you say hello / take a selfie of the dragon in the underpass?
And not this time, but I know exactly what is meant by that. In Conway, there's the underpass just after the start. There's a brilliant dragon kind of mural on the wall. I quite often take a picture of that when I'm in Conway working, send it to my friends, going, "Hey, guess where I am again." But no, I didn't do a selfie on when I actually set off.
Oh, lovely. Oh, well, that's all of the questions that I've got. I'm really sorry if I've missed anyone's questions. There have been absolutely millions of them, but thank you all so much for asking them. It's been really, really great. And thank you, Shane, for all of your insights. It's been fantastic to hear about the whole journey.
It's been lovely to chat, and it was I guess in summary, it was a really, really positive, life-affirming experience, and I had a lot of fun. It was really hard. And I guess the things that I say to my participants at the events is like, you only get real adventure when you've got real uncertainty. And I just wanted to live and breathe that for myself, and I definitely got that.
Yeah, definitely sounds like you did. Thank you so much. If anyone's interested in following the race, the 6-day version, it's starting on the 2nd of September, and we'll be releasing tracking information about that. And entry is actually open for 2025 on the 13th of September. So if listening to Shane's super fun description of the route has you inspired, we'd love to see you next year.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening. It's absolute honour to be able to speak to you all, and I think I'll be seeing quite a few of you in Conway in 10 days' time.
Thanks, everyone.